Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a good weekend. I did. It was busy. Stuff done. On a side note, since classes started, we want to make sure that phones are getting put away and earbuds are out so you're paying attention. All right? Shouldn't have to necessarily tell you that, but here we are. 11 days until SB2 needs to be finalized and complete. Okay?
Is it just those?
By the end of this week, you should have modules 16, 17, 18, 19, and then the final exam for the automotive service safety completed. So if you've been following along and been keeping up with what I've been kind of telling you up on the screen every week, you should be able to have the automotive service safety done by Friday. All right, which is fantastic because this is technically due next week Friday. So that way next week we can go in and do the Automotive Lift Institute, lifting it right. Okay, and then you'll be able to meet that. So next week's deadline is for the automotive service safety and the lifting it right modules. Okay, you'll get 2 certificates for SB2. Now I want to make it abundantly clear because I don't want it coming back saying, "Well, Mr. Gutsky never said that." If you do not get SP2 done by next week Friday, the 2 certificates that I just talked about, you will be removed from the class. Okay? All right, we've already been in contact with administration, and they are fully aware that I have given you 5 weeks, once this is done, to have SP2 done, which means you will be taken out of the class if you can't get it done and be given a study hall. Okay?
Well, you already got a study hall.
You'll get another one. Okay? You will be out of this class.
Don't you get an F in this class?
I'm not too sure how that works, but you won't be in this class anymore. Okay? So that's how serious this is, and this is the reason why I've been trying to break it down to make it easier for you to make that deadline. If you have not done anything for SP2, holy crap, you are behind the 8 ball right now. You need to get your rear end in gear, get things caught up, because I'm not slowing down for you. Okay? 4 days engine fundamentals. That was due this past Friday, midnight. Saturday morning, I went in, I graded that, scored it, put in Skyward. There are many students that are now failing class because they did not complete this assignment. Okay? Just straight up. I'm not mad. I'm just telling you how it is. All right? If you were one of those students that did not get that turned in on Friday, you have until this Friday to get it taken care of. That is the deadline. There's a difference between the due date and a deadline. The due date is when you need to have it done, right? That's when you should have had turned it in. The deadline is the absolute last opportunity that I will accept it. So, on Saturday, October 5th, if you didn't turn that in, and you were trying to turn it in on the 5th, it doesn't count anymore. It goes in the gradebook as a 0 permanently. Okay? Just laying it out there. Now, today, you have just been assigned a brand new assignment, a study guide. The due date for that is next week, Friday. This is anticipation of us taking the test for everything that we've done so far in this class. Okay? So you can see immediately if you're not taking care of SB2, if you didn't take the 4 days or do the 4 days, and now you got this, you've got a lot of work to catch up on. I will also be very blunt with you and very upfront that first quarter, the only summative assessment that will be going in the gradebook will be this test that we're going to be starting to study for, that we're going to be taking in 3 weeks.
What day is our test?
Which means this test is more important than the final exam for your semester grade. Your semester final exam is worth 15% of your overall semester grade. The first test that we're taking is going to be worth like 32% of your semester grade. Hi, morning. High five. It's a joke. So, happy Monday. sorry to drop this in your lap right now, but it's time to start getting serious, okay? So the study guide is due 1 week before the test, all right? And that's to give those students that don't get it done by this date an extra 4 or 5 days to get it completed and caught up so they can get some kind of score. So that way they have something to study for the test. By the way, if you don't get things turned in by the due date, right, you automatically lose 10% of the points that you could have earned. So if let's pretend this is worth 20 points, because it is, right? The maximum score you can get now for this, if you did not turn it in, is 18, because you lose 10%, which is 2 points. So if you turn it in and you get 100% on everything, you get 18 out of 20 now.
It's like every day, does it go down?
Nope. If you turn it in today, you turn it in Friday. It doesn't matter. You just, it's 10% off the top because you did not meet that due date. Okay, same thing for the study guide. The study guide is worth just as much as the 4 days. 20 points. So if you get it turned in by next week Friday, fantastic. You get all the points allocated that you earn. You don't turn it in by next week Friday, right? Turn it in that Saturday for whatever reason, you lose 10% automatically right off the top. Okay? So it becomes a very quick downward spiral. Yeah?
Are we going to get class time to work on our study guide?
Probably not.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Some of you might, but it's going to be sporadic. It's not like, hey, here's something that everyone's going to get. And we'll talk about what that looks like when we get out in the lab and actually start doing the lab. Okay? Because I only have 6 shop cars, right? And I've got 7 groups. So there's going to be one group that's not going to be doing the lab at any given point in time. So instead of working on the lab, you're going to go out in the shop with your computers and you're going to be working on that.
Did you post that?
As posted in Google Classroom since 7 o'clock this morning. We're going to go over it today in class. I'm going to give you hopefully some time in class to start working on it. That way everyone's on the same page in terms of what the expectations are for the study guide, how to complete it, and all that sort of stuff. All right, I spent a lot of time, researching the best way to have prepare students for this test. And in my research, I found that this is probably going to give you your best opportunity. Okay. So again, in Google Classroom here, let me just go ahead and turn the lights off so you guys can see the screen slightly better. I know it's kind of first hour and we get a little bit of glare. If you want to shut those shades a little more, feel free to. Otherwise, okay. Google Classroom. If we go into classwork, you can see here that the top part it says study guide. We open this up. I'm just going to go ahead and view instructions quick. And let me go ahead and zoom in because it's a little easier to read them. I'm just going to read this out loud right to you. All right, assigned as a study guide for the upcoming summative assessment. The study guide is designed to be completed over several days and to help you review your notes and other information that was taught to you throughout the duration of this unit. Read and follow the directions on the study guide carefully as you prepare. It is important that you complete the study guide using your own words, as this will help you retain the information that is necessary to be successful on the summative assessment. Copy and pasting information to get the assessment done will not build the knowledge and the skills necessary to pass the summative assessment. It will also cause the assignment to receive 0 points in the gradebook. You will not be able to use any notes on the summative assessment. Okay, you've obviously been given an English and a Spanish version of the study guide. You are only required to complete it in one of the languages. All right. Now, in the past, there's always a story behind why I give the instructions the way I do. Okay, in the past, when I've handed out study guides, I've had students literally ask ChatGPT for the answer. Then they literally copy and paste that answer in from ChatGPT right into this. And they turn it in thinking, yeah, I completed the assignment. Nope. Okay, and also I want to make it abundantly clear, it is majorly obvious when people copy and paste information into this assignment and I read it and I go, wait a second, we never talked about this. I never discussed this. Why are they bringing it into the information? Oh, it's because they copied and pasted it, right? Like, there are even students that don't even change the formatting. It's hilarious. It's like, can it be any more obvious that you just were so lazy that you didn't want to do the work, or they put the time in, you just wanted to get the points? Well, in this case, if I suspect that you are copying and pasting or just not putting the information in the way it needs to be put in, it just gets a straight up 0. Okay? And again, I want to emphasize this. As a teacher, part of my responsibility is to edit out information to not make it more complicated than what it is. That means I'm not telling you the whole story. I'm not giving you all the information. I'm giving you just barely enough to be able to understand what's going on. Which means if you really, really wanted to, you could go out there and you could look up that same information and they will regurgitate to you all of the advanced level stuff, all of the higher level thinking on it, okay? But that is not stuff that I'm going to be testing you on. You kind of understand what I'm saying here, right? I'm only going to test you on the stuff that we talked about in class and things that were taught to you. Okay, this is Auto 1 after all. It's not Auto 2 where we do get into advanced stuff. So the best resource for you in regards to completing the study guide are your notes. The stuff that you've been writing down and following along with us. Hopefully you've been going into Ford ACE and you were able to complete engine fundamentals. Okay, that's some fantastic information to help reinforce what we talked about in class. You get it a second time from a different perspective. Right? Now you can kind of start making links, hopefully. All right, anyways, here's the study guide. This is how it breaks down. It's going to look very intimidating because it's a lot of stuff on here that I'm going to ask you to do. But I'm not asking you to do it all at once. This is not an assignment that you sit down and complete in one sitting. If you do that, you are missing out on the actual, what I'm trying to get to. Okay? In my research, I found that students that perform best on assessments study over multiple days. They don't just sit up and say, okay, for the next 4 hours, I'm going to cram all this information in. Okay, the students that cram the information in will not retain that information, and they will not pass the test. Okay, I'm giving you 2 weeks to finish the study guide. It is designed to be completed in 7 days. All right, so please use that to your advantage. Again, let's go ahead and read this instructions so that way we're all on the same page here. All right, the study guide is designed to help you prepare for the upcoming summative assessment by reviewing the particular information that was provided, discussed, and taught during class. The answers to these essential questions may be found in the lecture notes you completed in class, through online module lessons such as Ford ACE, right, our engine fundamentals, or in the instructions written on the lab sheets. Digital copies are provided in Google Classroom. Okay, so there are going to be some questions on this test in 3 weeks that you have not yet addressed because we haven't done the lab yet. Okay, we're going to be doing that this week. These study guide questions are scored separately from your score on the skills competency assessment. Practice test questions on this study guide will not appear on the summative assessment. Okay, so this is graded, and you need to complete it and turn it in, and I will score it. Now, there are links on this page to begin with. I'm not going to go into this, but there's a link. If you click on it, it will take you to another page on how to take my Automotive 1 assessments. There is a lot of information, and it goes into what kind of questions I ask on the test, along with test-taking tips. I'm going to let you read through that on your own time, so that way you have a fully clear understanding of what expectations are going to be on the test. So that way you can get the best score possible. When it comes closer to the test, I'll probably go through that a little bit further in detail. So again, you are best prepared when you come in here on that Friday. All right, upcoming skills competency assessment is going to have questions from these sources. Your engine fundamentals lecture notes, there's going to be 6 questions on the test from that. There are going to be 6 questions from the lubrication system lecture notes. 1 question from our vehicle identification lecture notes. 3 questions going to be from the engine and oil filter change lab. And then 1 question is going to be directly from our engine fundamentals Ford ACE lesson. So in total, this test is going to have 17 questions for a total of 34 points. And because it's a summative assessment, it goes into the 45% of your quarterly grade category. That is a huge chunk. Here's the ASE standards that we discussed in class. These standards will show up on the test. So if you read through these, you probably will have an idea of what I'm going to be asking you. Now, in order to avoid being overwhelmed and to utilize the study guide to assist in studying, which is what it's meant for, complete all the questions according to the schedule, including the review recommendations. Day 1, day 2, day 3, you get the idea. Okay, and because it's blue, these are all links. Right, so let's say I come up here and I'm doing day 3. Well, I don't want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. I can literally click on this and go here, and boom, that takes me to day 3. Okay, I try to make it as easy as possible to navigate through this document so that way you can kind of keep track, keep yourself organized, and keep yourself moving forward. All right, additional resources. I've also placed on here links to some YouTube videos that I recorded in relationship to the lecture stuff. So, hey, I didn't take notes that day, or hey, I wasn't here that day. Cool, there's a link. Click on it, watch the video. They're like 35 minutes. All right, it's literally me recording myself talking with the slideshow. Okay, if you want to, you can go over your notes again, however that may end up being. There's also a link here to the lab sheet that you will physically have in class. Okay, now obviously you're not going to be taking this lab sheet home with you. It's going to stay here at school. So here's the digital version of that lab sheet that you can read through and kind of get. There's going to be 3 questions on the test that are directly right off of this lab sheet. Okay? So you might want to study up on some of that stuff. Might want to pay attention when you're doing the labs on what's going on. All right? Again, I'm trying to give you the best opportunity here to study the information that will be on the test. Okay? This is a tool. Now, if we go in and what is the expectation? What are you going to be doing on the study guide to help you prepare? It's going to be a lot of vocabulary words. Okay? So just a heads up on that. I'm going to be asking you to write down definitions for words that we've covered in class. Specifically in your own words. Okay? You're not writing verbatim. You're not looking this information up in a dictionary. You're just copying and pasting what's in the dictionary. I don't care what's in the dictionary. What I care is, are you able to internalize that information in here and come up with your own definition of that? That will make you, or that will allow you to remember it better. Just copying and pasting it doesn't do anything for you. So, directions in your own words, without looking at any notes. But Mr. Getzky, you just told me I could use your notes. Yes, you can. Study your notes, look over your notes, right? Internalize those notes, but then when it comes to actually filling out the study guide, put that aside. What do you remember from what you read? 99% of students don't know how to study properly. What they do is they just read their notes and go, yeah, I know what this is because I'm reading it right here in front of my eyes, and go, yeah, I got it. They set that down, and 5 seconds later, they wouldn't be able to tell you what it is. Okay, it's called fake studying. That was fake studying, just looking over your notes and reading it, thinking you know what it says and what it means. You probably don't. Okay? So the idea is you're using notes, looking that information up, internalizing it, setting it aside, and then you are literally testing yourself to see how well you actually know that information by writing out the definition in your own words. Does that make sense? This is not easy, okay? But this is true studying. All right, which is the purpose of this. Write out a definition for each of the following vocabulary words. So in this case, the first one is oil pressure sensor. Okay, hey, I know what okay, let me look up the definition for the oil pressure sensor in my notes. Right? You might even Google search in a dictionary, what is an oil pressure sensor? Right? Let me get someone else's idea of what an oil pressure sensor is, what it does. Cool. Now you got your notes. Now you're looking that definition up online. Maybe you might even do a YouTube search. Right? Maybe you might find a 5-minute video about oil pressure sensors. Watch that video. Excellent. Awesome. Okay? All these resources are at your disposal. Get that information, digest it, think about it, put it in your own words, write out what you think. Okay? It's very straightforward what I'm asking you to do. It's not easy. But that's because this test is not going to be easy. I need you to know this information. Again, oil cooler, oil filter. Use your lab sheets too. Okay? Now, on our study guide here as well, this thing is not cooperating. I got some practice test questions. Let me actually scroll all the way up here. So, again, you're not having your notes necessarily in front of you because you've been studying them. Here's a test question with information that's going to be very relevant to the test and is asked in a way that you would probably find on the test. Because a lot of times students say, Mr. Getsky, your test questions are worded so weirdly, right? It's not worded weirdly. I'm not trying to trick you. You just need to pay attention to specifics and the details. You can't just read over it and go, oh, well, here's the obvious answer. There are no obvious answers on my test. You have to know the information. So, answer the following practice test question by checking one of the boxes for your selected answer. Tech A says an engine cylinder arrangement is commonly an inline design. Tech B says that a V design is a commonly used cylinder arrangement. Who is right? There are going to be a lot of Tech A, Tech B type questions on the test when you take it. Okay? You need to start figuring out how to answer that question. And again, if you scroll all the way back up at the top, that link that says how to take an Automotive 1 assessment, if you click on that, in that document, it'll actually tell you strategies on how to answer Tech A type, Tech B type questions. Okay? And again, that's there to help you. So that way you can do well on this test. I also tell you, hey, where can you find the answer for this practice test question? 4 days lesson, engine components. If you did this lesson in 4 days, or you go back in and redo that lesson, it will give you the answer to that. Okay? And again, all you have to do then is check on that box. It'll put a check mark there. Cool. If you want to, you can double check to make sure your answer is correct. Right? But then you can move on. I'm just going to unselect that for now. Nope. Go on. There we go. Okay. Then again, we're going to move down a little further. More definitions, more vocabulary terms. Same as before. Okay? Intake valve, cylinders, water jackets. This one, though, not only are you defining it, you need to identify where it lives. Does it live in the engine block, or does it live in the cylinder head? You're just going to denote that. Okay? I'm asking you that on purpose because there are going to be test questions that are going to directly ask you, does this live here or does it live here? And if you don't know where it lives, you won't be able to answer that question. Okay, so not only need you know what it is, but also where it's at. Okay, there you go. That's the end of day 1. All right, so you got 3 vocabulary words, a practice test question, and another 3 vocabulary words. Once you get done with that, you're done for the day. Right? Then the next day you come back and you say, okay, now I'm on day 2. Similar concept or similar design. Vocab words, test question, vocab words. But I also want you to go back and review the information that you completed on day 1. Why?
To remember it.
To remember it. Okay? Repetition. 99.9% of the students, what do they do in school? They learn the information for the test, they take the test, and then what happens? You forget about it. Why? Because you're not using that information anymore, right? Why are we in school? To learn, to take tests, and then forget about it? No, I want you to know the information. I want you to own this. So that way 10 years from now you can go back and go, yeah, I know what a sump and a baffle is. I learned that. You don't forget things you learn. Okay? The problem is public school is very bad at making students learn. Okay? It's really good at teaching and making test scores. So it looks like you're learning. Math. I'm trying to change that. Unfortunately, students don't like this because it's more work. But I guarantee you, you learn this, it makes things in the future easier. Okay, anyways, I'm getting on a little bit of a soapbox. This is my own personal problem that I've been just, as a teacher, I get frustrated with because it's like, I want you to know this. I'm excited for you to know this because this is information that not everyone knows, and they should. You go through 7 days of this, right? And you go in your review, you should be very well prepared to take the test. Yeah?
You could do this in class?
In some instances, yes. So there'll be, like I said, there's going to be days where you're going to be out in the shop and you won't have a vehicle that you're working on with your group. In that case, I got a couple tables here. You'll bring your Chromebook out, you're going to sit down, and you're going to start working on this. So yes, you could do that during class time. All right? So there's that. Now, that's not going to be every day, but over the next 3 weeks, you probably will have some kind of time. Not guaranteed though. Anyways, the last page is just for me. As you turn this in by the due date on the 11th, right? I'm going to go through, I'm going to read this, I'm going to give you a score out of 43 points. That's going to give you a percentage, and then that percentage is then going to be put into 20 points. Right? So if you get 90%, then whatever 90% of 20 points is, that's what's going in the grade book. Okay? And you can actually compare percentages to what you get to the letter grade. Okay, so you can just kind of straight up know that. But this last page is just for me. Okay? Oh, what a crazy thing to talk about on Monday, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I want to give you that opportunity. I want to give you enough time to be able to complete this.
So next week Friday.
Next week Friday. All right? That's the due date. And again, it's to get you prepared for that test a week after it's due. So even after you get this thing turned in by the 11th, you can still access it and go in and still look over the notes and study it, review, and remind yourselves. We're going to be doing other things in class to help keep this information at the forefront. So that way in 3 weeks, when you take the test, right, it's not like, oh crap, we talked about this a month ago, I totally forgot everything. That's not my goal. My goal is to keep annoying you with this stuff, so that way you're like, oh yes, okay, I know what an intake valve is, Mr. Getsky. We've talked about it like a billion times, right? If it starts getting annoying because it's so obvious that you know what it is, you have arrived. It has worked. You have learned it so well that you're not forgetting it. As you get older, you will realize that that is no longer my responsibility to annoy you. That's going to be your own personal responsibility to annoy yourself. And you got to learn strategies and stuff. Okay, anyways. Are there any questions, clarifications, things that are confusing about this? Okay, again, I don't try to be mean on this. I'm a straight shooter. I just want to tell you how it is. Those students with their heads down right now, I do not expect you to pass the test. Okay? So I'm sorry. I've seen this. This is my first time teaching this class. Students that don't turn in SP2 or don't do work like 4 days, I can already predict what your grade's going to be. You can predict it as well. It's nothing new. All right, today's normal class 3, so we got until 8:49. So you guys got, what, 20 minutes here? I'm gonna let you start working on this in class right now. Here's the fun part. It's always better and funner to study with a partner and a friend. So long as you don't get distracted. Right? It's very easy to say, oh, Mr. Geske letting me work with a partner. I'm going to go work with my best friend. And all of a sudden we start talking about what we did this weekend. That's not the purpose of working with a partner. Okay? The reason why you work with someone else is so that way you can bounce ideas off of each other. Hey, what do you think an intake valve is? I think it's this. Oh, weird. I thought it was this. You can collaborate. Okay? That is to allow you to grow. If you want to work by yourself, you feel free to do that. All right? So that's how that's going to work.